Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our latest installment of Espresso with Carlo. This year, we are meeting the leading candidates for mayor and city controller, and we are really excited to have today Eric Adams, my borough president of the great borough of Brooklyn. And before we begin, let me thank our sponsors, Bravo, Global Infrastructure Solutions, Langen, Northwest Mutual, Pat DeSerbo, Siame Construction, STV Group, and Suffolk. We are really thankful for all of them to continue to support us. I'm excited to have Eric on. Obviously, I have known Eric a very, very long time. We've worked very closely on issues. You may think just about Brooklyn, but issues that affect the entire city and really the entire region. I'm going to be very quick in my intro of Eric because we want to get to hearing from the man himself. He is currently the Brooklyn Borough President, was elected in 2013. Prior to that, Eric was a New York State Senator for 7 years, representing parts of central Brooklyn. Eric in Albany was a true leader, helped push through measures to protect tenants and workers, improve public safety, and advance human rights. What is really striking, and I think you all know this, is Eric is a retired NYPD captain and police officer, serving a total of 22 years. I know he is a proponent of a great mix of police reform, but keeping our city safe. And I think Eric will talk to us about it. A proud son of Brownsville, Brooklyn, a graduate of New York City Technical College and John Jay, and has an MPA from Marist College. His mom was a house cleaner and cook. His father was a butcher, a great New York City success story. More importantly, Eric, you're my friend, and it's great to have you on here. And Eric, you had a big day today. I mean, DC 37 and Espresso with Carlo, that's a pretty good day. But let me turn it over to my friend, Eric Adams.
Yes, and thank you so much, Carlo, for just the years of what you have been doing for this city. And you have the Midas touch. I mean, everywhere you go, from your days in the borough president's office to the chamber, to now at the amazing building, Congress. It's just that, you bring the same level of institutional knowledge and the same system. What people don't realize, it's about systems, Carlo. When you bring the same winning system, it doesn't matter who's at the helm, you continue to grow. And that's at the heart of running for office and why I am running to be the mayor of the city of New York, is because you mentioned my law enforcement career, but what many people are not aware of, that I was policing in this city when we were having 2,000 homicides a year, 98,000 robberies. No one wanted to come to New York. And I was part of a small group of men and women that Jack Maple put together to say we will use technology to turn around crime in this city and have a different vision of how policing would actually be performed in the entire country. It started here in New York and cascaded throughout the entire country. We put a system in place, and it didn't matter who was the mayor. It didn't matter who was the police commissioner. The system was right, and we were able to duplicate the system over and over again. Only when we moved away from that system, we're experiencing what we're seeing now, and that's the erosion of public safety in this city. So I'm hoping during this conversation today, many people will get an understanding that all I'm doing is taking the system of accountability, of operating as a team that is focusing on a mission-centered city. And I'm just using the knowledge of back then, how we reformed the dysfunctionality of policing. We now need to reform the dysfunctionality of all of our agencies in these cities, because cities are made up of agencies. And if they're operating in silos, it doesn't matter how much money you put in the city, you're going to get a dysfunctional product. And right now with dysfunctional and the inefficiencies of our cities is actually leading to the inequalities that we're witnessing.
Well, thank you. And before, and I want to start with that actually, but a couple of shout outs. First of all, the chair of our board, Elizabeth Velez. Elizabeth, thank you for being here. I have to give a shout out to an old friend who I see is on, former Bronx Borough President, Adolfo Carrion Jr. It's nice to quote, see you here. Vinny Alvarez, one of our board members, Central Labor Council. We've got Cesar Claro from Staten Island EDC, and Ben Prosky from the AIA, and just so many people, the GCA, ACEC. Really, Eric, a great turnout for you today. But let's talk about efficiencies, because you're right. You know, I've run 3, I think, successful things in the last few years. Borough Hall when I was there, the Brooklyn Chamber, and now this. And to me, it was very simple. You create systems, you operate systems, you sit with the team, and you make sure that everyone not only is ensuring that the systems are moving, but that everyone is working together and that they're talking, so that in your priorities, I know you don't understand why all agencies are kind of separate and not working together and not on one system. And I think that's excited a lot of people to hear your vision about technology and integrating the agencies and the system. So I think everybody here would love to hear about that.
And it's so important. And you know what, Carlo, it's unfortunate. Those of us in government, let's be honest, we're jaded. You know, we really don't believe the city can function. And many of us, we say we're going to pay our taxes, or we're going to perform our businesses and our corporation. But you know what, this city is never going to function, is never going to do the things it's supposed to do. And they just basically surrendered. I know differently. You know, they laughed at us when we talked about having a safe city. Those commanders said it's impossible. We always will have 2,000 homicides a year. And so I know right now I'm dealing with a city where people don't believe. But let me tell you something, the city can function. And so what does that look like? The first 60 days in office, I'm going to tell every agency in the city that you're going to clearly define your mission. You're going to make sure that mission is tied into the overall mission of the city. And thirdly, most importantly, you're going to make sure you're not carrying out any action that is in conflict with the mission of another agency. Now, what does that look like in practice? You can't have a Department of Buildings that is in conflict with small business services. Someone tries to open a restaurant, or someone tries to build a affordable housing, yet you have a Department of Buildings where it's going to take you 2 years to get the permit to open your restaurant, or the CFO, or you have a tree in front of a development site and it takes Department of Parks 1.5 years or 2 years just to move the tree over so you can develop that site. So as long as we are having separate agencies judge their success in a silo instead of judging their success in the overall outcome of the mission, you're always going to have this problem. So I'm going to go to my Commissioner of Department of Buildings. I don't want to know how many citations you issued. I want to know how many apartments you got online, which HPD and Homeless Services, and in HPD, are you creating the right apartments that Homeless Services is saying we need? And Department of Parks, are you coordinating with the team to make sure we don't have trees in the way and we can also move with our environment? That's the type of teamwork we need and mission driven. We don't have that right now. Everyone is separate. They have separate agendas, and you go to each agency and they will all tell you that issue is not my problem. That's their problem. That's DOT problem. That's Parks problem. No, it's not. Now we're going to move to a team-driven mission, and that's a different way of running cities in our country.
I agree. I tell this story without mentioning who. When I was chief of staff to your predecessor, Marty Markowitz, there was a famous restaurant that was looking to open in Brooklyn. and there was a problem with a tree in front of a loading dock. I mean, it was ridiculous. It took about 6 months for everyone to talk. And in the meantime, these people are paying rent every month without any income coming in.
Unbelievable. I have a restaurant. They're paying $15,000 a month, and they can't get FDNY and DOB to get on the same page and come and do their sprinkles inspections. They came in one time, they had to make a modification. They're waiting almost 6 months to get them back in. So we're not hiring cooks, dishwashers, waiters, all the people who are part of that industry.
So Eric, the next mayor, I think, inherits three very clear crises. So a healthcare crisis, an economic crisis, and a social injustice crisis. I don't like to call it social justice because there is no justice, it's injustice. How do you tackle each of those things? How do you prioritize so many things on your plate?
And I would add one more to that. I would actually add two more. We're dealing with a public safety crisis, and we're hemorrhaging our high income earners because we've demonized them over and over again. 65,000 people are paying 51% of our income taxes, and they're only 2% of the income tax filers. And here's where we need to look at.
Florida is looking good to those 65,000 people.
Every day, every day. So here's what we're looking at, which is so important, the difference between Eric Adams and everyone else that's running for mayor. I'll never forget when I was hit, as you know, I was hit with diabetes, lost my sight, had nerve damage. They told me I was going to be blind in a year. I was going to lose some finger and toes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. All my doctors were trying to give me different medicines to deal with each one of the issues until I found the right doctors that said, listen, there's one problem that's causing all of your problems. And instead of spot checking all of these issues we have, it's the same problem that's causing all of our problems. We create our crises in this city. And if we do not have an alignment of our missions, we're going to always point out these different problems that we have. And I say, let's stop doing that. So let's first deal with our economic challenges that we're having. Number one, we are wasting taxpayers' dollars. Taxpayers are doing their job. We're not doing our job. We need to have an immediate hiring freeze, just like Mayor Bloomberg did. He saved about $1.5 billion in the hiring freeze. We need to look at a 2 to 3% cut across the board in all of our agencies. There's too much fat there. We had a $20 billion increase in the budget over the last 7 years, and we have nothing to show for it. We can do a better job to run the city more efficiently. We have to stop hemorrhaging money back to the federal government. And that's why I want to talk about some of my plans around my city card. We need to automatically sign up people who are eligible for certain benefits so we can recycle those dollars here in the city. Then we must become a place where businesses want to come. We used to be the Empire State. We used to build empires here. Now it's too expensive, too bureaucratic, and no one wants to promote businesses coming to the city of New York. We're going to become the center of life sciences, biotech, self-driving cars, drone development, technology. Let's lift up places like Google and what they're doing in Chelsea area, and Facebook and their long lease that they signed at Hudson Yard. But we also have to be safe, Carlo. We're seeing gun violence increase. It's going to kill our tourism. No one is going to come to this city if it's an unsafe city. I would immediately reinstitute the anti-crime unit, turn them into an anti-gun unit so we could do precision policing, go after the gang members that are feeding gun violence in this city and get guns under control and stop the flow of guns in our community. And we could do a better job of doing so.
All sounds amazing, and I think you're right. Gun violence, you got to tackle that. So Eric, our members are amongst the greatest builders anywhere in the world. They're building residential, office, commercial, schools, hospitals, playgrounds, parks, medical centers, highways, roads, bridges, tunnels, water infrastructure, broadband, etc. An industry that is either the second or third largest industry when you encompass all, not just in the city, but in the state. What's your vision for building New York? What's the Eric Adams, after 8 years as mayor, what are we going to look back on and say, wow, we built this because of Mayor Eric Adams?
That's a great question because this is a win-win moment. And I'm going to continue to lean into the concept, one solution must solve a multitude of problems. One solution, multitude of problems. So what problems are we looking at? We're looking at a weakening infrastructure. We're looking at an affordable housing problem. We're looking at an employment problem. So those multitude of problems and an environmental issue problems. Multitude of problems, one solution. Let's utilize the moment we're in right now where borrowing is low. It's time to build our way out of those problems. The borrowing costs are low, interest rates are low. You don't have to be a financial wizard to know when interest rates are low, it's time to borrow. I just refinanced my house because the interest rates were so good, so we can do it as a city.
I'm doing the same as we speak.
So let's look at a bonding, a $billion bonding program where we will develop green infrastructure. Let's use this opportunity to convert the $19 billion we spend a year on energy. Let's convert it to a real wind farm, go to clean energy. This is an excellent opportunity to do so. Let's build a pipeline of young people to learn these skills within our Department of educational system, so they would be prepared to fill these jobs as they leave the school system. And that is how we're going to start dealing with the educational and the employment of marriage that we need to create. Is similar to what I'm doing at the Brooklyn Navy Yard with my Brooklyn STEAM Center. It's the feeder of 9 high schools where they're learning real jobs, real certifications to be employable. And then let's change our zoning, Carlo. We've always had zoning wrong in this city. We've upzoned in poorer communities, displaced long-term residents who were there and moved in affluent New Yorkers. We need to do it the opposite way. We need to upzone in affluent communities, including places like Soho, including places from 42nd Street down to 14th Street, from 9th Avenue over to Park Avenue. Let's move poorer people into affluent areas. Why is that important? Now we deal with the segregation of our school systems. We're now going to diversify them. We deal with access to transportation. These are transit-rich areas. We deal with access to food, healthy food, instead of food apartheid and food deserts. One solution can solve a multitude of problems.
And I think those are all great ideas. Rezonings are so critical. You look at parts of Midtown and parts of Manhattan that have 6, 8 subway lines hitting there. And you walk out of there after 6 o'clock at night and no one lives there. And you wonder why. Why should there be surface parking lots when there could be a residential building of mixed use or something? So, one thing I don't know that people may know about you is you always go to the experts. And one of the things I say to you, and I've said it to all the candidates, is our organization, like many others, has experts, engineers, contractors, designers, architects that are called upon all across the world to help them redevelop and revision, but they're not called upon in their backyard. How do you feel about working with experts and the business community in general once you tackle all these issues?
Many of the listeners on this talk right now would tell you for the last 2.5 years, I have had meetings from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 1 at a time or 2 at a time with experts in education, in healthcare, in development, in housing, in technology. I met with over 250 people, former deputy mayors, former commissioners, current commissioners, people from all walks of life. And I just sat back and listened and learned. And I really encourage people to go to my document, 100 plus steps forward from New York City. It came from these experts. Because if I were to go to you right now and say, Carlo, tell me about what we could have done better in the Chamber of Commerce. Because you're looking and you're no longer in the eye of the storm, you can say, Eric, here's some of the people I may have dropped the ball and I could have done better. When you go through an industry, you're one of the best individuals who can tell us how to do better. We don't do that enough. We have some of the smartest people in this city, but we have too much arrogancy of those in government that believe we should not go back and ask those who have gone through these various places and jobs and profession. And that's what I have done. Carl, I already know who's going to be my police commissioner. I know who's going to be my chancellor. I know who's going to be my first deputy mayor. I have built out my team from the 250 people I have sat down with. And I've always also asked them, tell me the people I need to meet with and speak with as we build this great team of New York City leaders for the future. It's all about talking to the experts and learning so that you can be a great leader and understanding the real problems of running a city this complex.
And it's a very complex city. And I think really, to me, that's something that strikes many people about you, is that you have met and you've spoken to the experts. Let's talk about you for a minute. So, I knew you before you were vegan. I know you sent me a great book that I haven't followed precisely yet, but I'm on my way. Tell us what happened? How did that change your life? And how can it help others across the city?
No, so true. And Carlo, people say that competency is on the ballot this year. And I think character is on the ballot. We need to really look at the fullness of all of the candidates, their lives. And the fullness of my life has made me the person that I am. I know what it is to be a low-skill employee because I was a dishwasher as a child. I worked in the mailroom at a CPA firm. I went to school at night, 2 classes at a time through the CUNY system to obtain my degrees. I know what it is to be on the verge of homelessness. I talk about it all the time. They used to call us the glad bag children. We would carry a garbage bag full of clothing because mom thought we were going to be thrown out by the marshals, and she did not want us to be embarrassed because of that. I know what it is to be really feeling betrayed when I was arrested and beat by police officers. But I went into the police department and fought for justice and safety. And when you look at the totality of my life, you're seeing that it is the character that we need to lead a city that's going through a lot. I went through a lot, and I think the next mayor must be someone who has gone through a lot so he can help people who are currently going through a lot. And my healthcare crisis was a moment of real reflection. Imagine waking up and can't see the alarm clock and told you would be blind in a year. And I could have easily said, woe is me, like I could have said, woe is me when I was a young man being beat by police. But I never said that. I said, dark moments are not burials, they're plantings. And I took my health journey to change how people are looking at health in the city. I have the first of its kind program at Bellevue Hospital where we are reversing chronic diseases. And I'm going to do that throughout our health and hospital system. So the moments I've lived through will help New Yorkers get through the moments they are living through right now.
Awesome. Eric, I'm going to put you on the spot a minute. When I first got to know you, I guess I had started working for Marty, and you were in Albany, and you had a daily news, I don't know if it was an op-ed, editorial, or a story, and it grew and people loved it. And it was about dropping, and I forgot the name of it,
Stop
but
this
it was
pan.
the drop the pants or some movement or something. And I forgot what it was called, but I bring that up because, there are certain things that with your experience, both on the force and in government, And honestly, being a Black man in New York City, that I think you bring to the table that maybe others don't. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that's a story that you've talked about and told, and I don't know that our viewers today know that.
It was one time in this city, many people don't recall it, but you couldn't go anywhere without people showing, their underwears. They were showing all sorts of parts of their bodies. And, believe it or not, Carlo, a group of young ladies came to my office, college students, and they stated that one of them was on the train and she was traumatized because there was a young man standing in front of her showing, parts of his body parts. And she said, I just want to do something about this. And we became so used to children dressing that way without realizing that we were eroding some of the basic principles that these young people needed. And you would walk into a store, you would see what they would call sagging at the time. You would be on the train and going to job interviews that way. And as adults, I tell my son all the time, you're not supposed to like me while I'm your dad, as I'm grooming you. If you think I'm the coolest thing going, I'm not doing something right. We're supposed to be a retrospective appreciation, not a current state. And that's what evolving young people into adulthood is about. And so that's what that campaign was about. It was about telling young people as an adult, here are my expectations of you. And you can push back, you could disagree, because young people are supposed to disagree. We disagreed as young people, but there's supposed to be a standard that adults are supposed to set in their city of what are the expectations of our young people. And we've lost that. We started no longer to expect certain basic behaviors. And I was not going to sit back and continue to ignore we were losing our basic principles. And you don't see this anymore. You don't see everywhere you look now. Now you're seeing a different standard of expectations. So people may have criticized me back then, but I knew I had the challenge as an adult to start saying, this is what we expect in our city. And I was not going to sit back and ignore it like others were willing to do.
And I really bring that up to really say that I think your experiences can help make a difference and have made a difference on a quality of life that maybe people don't realize. But we have only about 10 minutes left. I want to stick on the youth. So we represent hundreds and hundreds of businesses across the city, several 100,000 employees, one of the largest workforces really in the city, that oftentimes struggle to find engineers and architects and people in the trades and everything. How can you as mayor work with organizations like ours and others to start building up young people, particularly young people of color, particularly in NYCHA, who maybe don't realize that a career in engineering or architecture or the building trades or an electrician or carpenter means a solid middle to upper middle class lifestyle? What can we do together?
Great question. Think about it. Your baby girl is going to go to school for a reason,
right?
To one day start her business or to be employed in a successful career. Why do we tell corporations and businesses, you don't play a role in building out the curriculum in the Department of Education? We don't want you a part of it. Here's what I'm going to do and instruct my chancellor to do. You are going to partner with our major businesses, organizations, professional groups, industries, and they're going to sit down and assist in the curriculum development for our Department of Education. Our teachers right now are operating in almost an echo chamber. We don't have professionals that are coming from outside the echo chamber to say, here are the skills that are going to be needed deep into the 21st century. I am not going to do that. I'm going to allow my children and my students and my educators to identify what are the skills for the future, not high-stake testing, the new skills for tomorrow, critical thinking, working in groups, communication. We're moving into a cycle where artificial intelligence and computer learning is going to change how we run cities. Yet we're not preparing our students for the future. Oxford University did a study that 40% of the jobs we're training our children for won't be available in the next 20 years. Not only self-driving cars, but we're also talking about even on the trading room floor of the stock market. Remember, we used to have 5,000 jobs on that trading room floor at its peak. We're down to 500 right now. Lemonade Insurance no longer utilizes insurance brokers. They use computer learning and AI. We need to start having the industries assist us in preparing our children for the jobs of the future, and it must be in the DOE, looking at certifications, licenses, all the skills that are needed for future employment, and that is what I'm going to do. I need the building Congress. I need all of these professional organizations to reimagine education for me. Internship program, exposing children to the industries, having them do a real life experience and learning how to network, learning how to communicate, learning how to do critical thinking. That is where I'm going as a mayor. We're going to reimagine what school is like and stop schooling and start educating.
It's so critical, again, because there are thousands and thousands of jobs that people can't fill because New York City doesn't have qualified students. It's crazy. So that's important. I want to shift quickly to the New York City capital budget program. You as borough president have given out millions of dollars over the last 7 years in capital. Clearly the mayor has a final say on how the capital budget goes. We are continue to call for robust investments in capital spending across the 5 boroughs. Tell us your vision for the capital budget and how you see it really helping communities.
Really, this is a time to build on so many different levels, not only building affordable housing, not only building and rebuilding our eroding infrastructure, but also something that's tied and is important to us, using it for our bus fleet. We are in the process right now of switching to electrical buses. We need to do a real analysis and look at those communities that are dealing with real health care crises like asthma and others. That's why I fought to have the start of our electrical bus rollout to go to places like Brownsville and East New York and the South Bronx. We need to also have a real pipeline to the green jobs that I talked about, of really looking at our grid and how do we use that $19 billion that we spend a year in energy to make sure we start building out a real high, robust green job plan and green job instruction or teaching plan, a real pipeline to these new jobs. But now is the time to invest, it's time to build, it's time to encourage a new movement in our city of bringing exciting industries here and even repurposing some of our housing stock in many of the business areas where we're going to see a decrease in floor space. Let's be honest with ourselves. Everyone is not coming back to the lower Manhattan or our central business district. Let's reimagine those areas to do some real affordable housing projects and even city spaces, our long-term leases. Let's reimagine them. Here's an opportunity to do real affordable housing projects in the process. Now it's time to use our capital budget to build our way out of this economic crisis that we are facing.
Agreed. Before we go, any particular large infrastructure projects? A couple of members have tweeted or texted me and asked, what's Eric Adams' favorite infrastructure projects he wants to get done, or at least get moving in his first term?
Oh, there are a few. We need to look at the BQE. I think you did an amazing job with spearheading that conversation. There were some exciting projects that came over that. I like the idea of even decking some of the parts of the BQE and turn it into green spaces. I like the idea of really looking at our parks. I want to take my hat off to Central Park Conservancy. They're able to move through projects without the bureaucracy. I think we need to look at duplicating that model of allowing the Conservancy to instruct other parks how to do so. We need more green spaces. I would love to have the legacy of having real green spaces throughout the city. And I just did a report, Carlo, with NYU Business Center and Cornell University. I really believe we need to lean into the agrarian economy. It allows us, remember, one solution solving a multitude of problems. If we start doing more greenhouses, we can deal in rooftop gardens, vertical farms. We can take trucks off our roads. We can identify food desert. We can deal with our health crises. But I think we have an opportunity to do some real big, major infrastructure issues here in the city. More bike lanes, switching from our transportation infrastructure that we're looking at, and even looking at the project, escaped me for a moment, but the project BQX, I should say, look at the feasibility of that. Reimagining and reigniting our waterfront. We have an amazing waterfront that has been abandoned. Having a transportation system along that waterfront that would feed into our major subway lines would do a boost for our entire economy. So there's a lot of opportunities.
A lot of opportunities. And,
yes.
and hopefully with trillions of dollars in infrastructure spending from Washington, now's the time to do it. Eric Adams, this has been great. Again, congrats on the DC 37 endorsement today. My mother is a DC 37 retiree, so congrats on that. And we wish you well. And I know as you're campaigning, you are enjoying every borough out there, but Brooklyn, it's got a special place, and you've done a great job as borough president. Eric Adams, thank you and good luck to you. And thank you again to everybody watching. And as we're talking, we just got another sponsor added on, Halmar, our friend Chris Larson. Thanks for helping us out. And just a reminder, we've got a great webinar tomorrow on timber. Now, again, I don't know much about it, but in our industry, it is a critical thing. So tune in on the timber, and then Alliant, which is one of our members, is going to be hosting a webinar with us on April 5th, New Directions for Infrastructure with Jano Lieber at MTA and Lorraine Grillo. Thank you, everybody. Eric Adams, have a great day. Thanks for being here.